How do you tell? We talked a lot about rhinos today. How do you tell if someone's a rhino? You get asked this. I do. I get asked on my show all the time. Doug, how do I tell? You always talk about we have a problem with rhinos. Here's a quick test before I bring up our next speaker. Very simple. If someone is running for office or already in office, you ask them the question, do you support full forensic audits of any election, no matter who wins? And if that person hems or haws or says no, that's a rhino. And you've got to get rid of them. That's how you do it. The question was brought up to me backstage. They wanted me to be sure to give you that litmus test. There's many more, but that's a simple one. Now, the next speaker. You all know he really needs no introduction, but I'll give him one because he's going to give us a 30,000-foot view of the election landscape, which ironically is his official height, 30,000 feet. He's an incredibly tall man. Seth Keshel. Seth is a former captain in the military, the intelligence group, served in Afghanistan. His analytical prowess and his skills has not only been recognized internationally, but President Trump has also called him out by name in thanksgiving for the work that he's done. He's at the forefront of the national election fight. He is 5 foot 19 inches tall, ladies and gentlemen. 5 foot 19, and he loves the fact that he is certified to diagnose electile dysfunction. Seth Keshel, ladies and gentlemen.
This is going to be hazardous. I don't like to stand still, especially not for 3 hours, which is how long my speaking block is. So we're going to start out, pull out your declarations of independence. We're going to go word for word study. You know, a lot happens when you drive through Wisconsin. I've been here a lot in the last 2 years. How many of you have seen me elsewhere in the Badger State? How many people were up in Wilsonville in St. Croix County 2 years ago? That was the first time I showed up. Tim's been there everywhere. Tim Rampton is a warrior in this state. And also, it's really good to see you, Harry. I'm glad that you're here. Everybody give Harry another round of applause. I've been in Waukesha County. I've been in Sheboygan County twice. Been down in Dane County. Of course, the Dane County Republican leadership team is here, so give them a round of applause as well. And this is my first time ever in southwestern Wisconsin. You may not understand this or know this, but in 2016, Wisconsin went to Donald Trump because he flipped the votes here in southwestern Wisconsin. These were the key swing vote in this region that gave the electoral votes to Donald Trump, and likewise right across the way in Iowa that flipped Iowa as well. So you guys play a pivotal role in your state's elections. How many people think the election in 2020 in this county was clean? How about the county 2 blocks that way? Of course not. That was an operation across all 72 counties in your state. So back to driving around Wisconsin. Wisconsin. Did I say it right? Every state is God's country. So driving across this state is interesting because I came to Cuba City for the first time, and it's all these statesmen, Clay, Calhoun, and then of course the presidents, Washington over here. Of course, amazing presidents. George Washington, who once said, liberty, once it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth. And then Jefferson Street. Thomas Jefferson said a great quote. He said, when you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot and hold on. And then, of course, we have Andrew Jackson with Jackson Street. And he said, I was born for a storm. A calm does not suit me. All words that you should take to heart in times like this in 2023, going into what is going to be a very tumultuous year, let me tell you that. And we even have other presidents who weren't so good memorialized here. There's a Harding Street in town after Warren Harding. But let me tell you this. There was a president who once said, if canoes had Eskimos, then pancakes wouldn't have bones. And Joe Biden will never have a street named after him in Cuba City. So to all of the election fraud deniers who tried to make this event fall by the wayside, for lack of better words, none of them could stand up here and talk about the true pandemic facing our country, which is chronic electile dysfunction. I will get into that. But look, Wisconsin's a very interesting place. There's a tribe from up this way, Menominee. Menominee Falls, Menominee City, Menominee Village, Menominee Park, Menominee Rapids, Menominee Forest, you name it, all over the place. And I'm going to tell you that President Trump is my nominee. I am here to say this. Captain Seth Keshel endorses Donald J. Trump for president in 2024. So look, here in Grant County, up the road, in Platteville, there was a story recently. There was a teacher named Mrs. Billings, and she was going through the class, and she decided that she was going to teach her kindergartners the alphabet. And she was going to go through, and she was going to, letter by letter, ask them what their fathers did for a living. And she went through A. And she's got little Johnny in the back, and little Johnny's raising his hand most of the time, but this time he doesn't want to say anything, and she's wondering why he's so quiet. And she skips him. B, and normally he'd be jumping up and down, up and down, up and down. And she skips over him. And they get all the way to the end of the alphabet. And she says, all right, little Johnny, are you going to tell us what your father does for a living? And he says, well, my dad dances at the gentleman's club next door, and men throw dollar bills at him, and then he comes home. And everybody was shocked. And she sent him out in the hall and said, little Johnny, is everything all right at home? That was really something disturbing to put out there in class. And he says, actually, teacher, I was just kidding. My father is a local organizer for the Grant County Democrat Party, but I didn't want to admit that in class. James Tesoro said it best. I like to rip on the Democrats. In fact, I have 3 beautiful children. I have an 11-year-old daughter who is 5 feet 4 inches tall already. And my kids insult each other by calling each other rhinos, communists, and Democrats. So anybody that wants to doubt my credentials or my political leanings, well, you have that story. And I also have instances like this on tape as well. It's not just a Democrat problem. We know that. Of course, Wisconsin is one of 5 contested states from 2020 when President Trump was still in office. A lot of people had confidence in that they would make their election right. Why? Because there was a Republican legislature. There should have also been a Republican governor, but guess who let this nonsense go excused in 2018? Scott Walker and the Wisconsin GOP. Because Milwaukee worked its magic on election night in 2018. Of course, they worked their magic at 3:45 a.m. on election night in 2020, not only in Milwaukee, but in Brown County and in Dane County. These were the last counties that were counting votes. And what do you know? Joe Biden has pulled ahead by 20,682 votes, and there's no more votes to be counted. Oh, sorry to hear that. All right, you guys come back next election. Nothing to see here. No audit here. Now, thanks to the work of people like Tim and Harry, James and Jefferson Davis, which is a great name, by the way, Robin Voss had to admit that Wisconsin's 2020 election was polluted by widespread fraud. And he didn't do a damn thing about it. But did they give up here? They did not give up. In fact, we have Megan Wolf, who's about to be what we would call in the Army unasked from her position. Now, that is a really good thing, but it's only the start, because we are not nationwide engaged as we should be. Maricopa County, I'm going to disagree with Doug. Now, Wisconsin is one of the epicenters of election corruption in this country, but I would consider symbolically, especially because of their role in 2022, Maricopa County, Arizona, to be ground zero for the election crisis. Over in Maricopa County, there's so much infighting within the ranks of the Republican Party that they've only filled 43% of their precinct captain allotment. 5 years after the 2018 midterm, 3 years after the Trump stolen election, and coming on a year now after the midterm that cost Kerry Lake the spot as governor and also 3 other heavy hitter Republicans at the top of the ticket. That is not engagement. So if we're going to cure the pandemic, the prescription is involvement and engagement. Should I define electile dysfunction for you guys? Yeah? Look, I'm going to give a disclaimer because we live in a very litigious society. Disclaimer, I am not a medical professional. But electile dysfunction is when you have difficulty maintaining an election. Or when your election lasts for longer than 4 days. A common symptom of electile dysfunction is a sudden, severe, and noticeable loss of interest in voting. And then finally, in the most serious cases, like we have in Arizona, definitely like we have in Washington, D.C., premature inauguration. That has about a 99% success rate. Sometimes you get somebody there that's going tisk, 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 tisk. It's not going to stop me. And you know what else isn't going to stop me? A couple nasty, unhappy, miserable, 12-cat owning Democrat women driving their cars around this square without enough guts to show up in a place where I guarantee you, I would sit there and listen to these people talk. I doubt anybody here engages in political violence, nor should you. They don't have any merit in their arguments. That's why they have to hide behind big tech. That's why they have to hide behind the letter agencies who want you to shut up. So I offer an open invitation to any of these protesters out here. I saw one protester to come up here and tell me that Joe Biden won this state with almost as many votes as Barack Obama had when he won it by 14 points. And that they're so confident in the result that we should audit every single ballot to ensure that these ballots were cast by a living individual who is eligible to vote and voted one time only. Well, that's what we wanted, was Mike Pence to actually do his job, but of course he didn't because of our principles. Our principle, conservatism, right? Conservatism is a dying ideology. Hey, America First populism is the way to go. I'm all about solutions, and that's why I've been talking about 10 points to true election integrity for a year and a half now. And here they are. The first one is best demonstrated by reviewing the statistics here in Wisconsin. Number one is to clean out the voter rolls. Dane County is ground zero in Wisconsin for corrupt voter registration. And they also have democracy in the park, where we will harvest your ballot for you over a period of 2 early voting weeks to make sure that we have a record-setting gain for a candidate who did not campaign in a state that is heavily trending away from his party. Number two, ban all electronic elections equipment. Number three, enforce voter ID on paper ballots marked by hand and counted by hand. Number four, severely restrict mail-in voting. Overseas military and the legitimately disabled, I see no need for anyone else to vote by mail. Point number five. Point number five, I agree with that. Come talk to me, we'll get it in the next bill. Point number five, severely restrict early voting. I was under the impression that we voted on a day called Election Day. Now, Election Day has become election weeks and election month. So much so that 12 months from now, in September of 2024, voters in Minnesota Virginia, and Washington State are already going to be voting in the 2024 presidential election. Point number 6, smaller precinct sizes. You're probably pretty good here in Grant County. Not the case in the larger counties in this country. Number 7, really important here, ban ballot harvesting and make it a felony. Number 8, Election Day is a holiday. 70+% support nationwide for Election Day as a holiday, but it's going to come with the teeth of no more mail-in balloting and no more early voting. You get a day off. And for you doctors, nurses, pilots, and truck drivers out there, we'll make for a limited window of in-person early voting. Right, are you happy now? Good. Point number 8 is Election Day as a holiday. Point number 9, reporting requirements for transparency. So no longer will we have 70 counties put their votes in and have Milwaukee and Dane counties counting votes for 4 or 5 days. Even the appearance of impropriety in our elections is enough to cause a massive disbelief in the election result. And number 10, heavy prison sentences for those committing election fraud. Now I've got 5 things. Before I wrap it up, I have 5 things that I need people here to consider. People ask me all the time, what can we do to get involved? I don't care if you're from Milwaukee or Dane counties, or if you're from Grant County, or if you're from Lafayette. Is it Lafayette or Lafayette? Or Lafayette? Because I went to college at Ole Miss, and it was Lafayette. Nobody can get that word right. It doesn't matter what county you're from. Everybody needs to take a part, not only in the 2024 election, but beyond. Remember, we got Trump elected in 2016 and went to sleep for 4 years. The day after President Trump won the 2016 election, the Democrat Party, or as Doug may say, the Commie Socialist Party, and the Rhino collaborators, went to work on ripping off the 2020 election. I've come up with an acronym called LIVES, L-I-V-E-S, like fight for your lives. The first letter is L, which is for lead. Not everybody is called to lead. But those of you who are, there's plenty of opportunities to do that. Right now, the vehicle for the America First agenda is the Republican Party, for all of its faults. Now, not every county Republican Party is ate up. Some of them are good. Some of them are not. But if the ones that are bad had good people that cared, they wouldn't be bad for long. Pima County, Arizona is a great example. That's the county that is home to Metro Tucson, Arizona. It's been taken over by America First Patriots. Now it is a functioning party in a major county that together with Maricopa County contributes 7 out of every 9 votes in Arizona. So you guys need to get involved in leading if that is something that you're equipped to do. Precinct captains, precinct committeemen, they are in desperate need of those. And of course we have people like James back here, who is the vice chairman of the Sheboygan County Republican Party, and because of his stances, he has taken tremendous heat from his own party. The letter I stands for investigate. We've been doing that for a long time. You two have been doing that for a long time. I've been doing it for 3 years, and that's why you know me today. We've dug and dug and dug and found out the truth about the 2020 election. And by the way, my numbers reflect a nearly 8-point margin of victory for President Trump in Wisconsin in 2020. That's what you would find if they did a substantial audit in this state and they matched up ballots if they really matched to real voters or not. The guy that's coming up after me, Dr. Frank, knows a ton about voter rolls, especially here in this state. Investigating is important. Are you investigating your local government in all things they do? What they're doing with the finances, what they're doing with elections, what kind of laws are loosening up for one time only? Because remember what they did during coronavirus. You give them an inch, they take a mile. Investigating is important, especially when it comes to elections and canvassing. Apartments, dormitories, nursing homes, they're loaded down with phantom voters. You get those voter rolls. The Democrats bought the voter roll here in this state 16 times in the run-up to the 2020 election. Of course, they're loaded down with dark money. Are we canvassing the voter rolls to make sure that registrations match those who live at addresses that are listed on the rolls? Because if they're not, we need to start having our people who have money run full-page ads in these rags like they try to nail people like us in, highlighting the inaction of government officials in clearing fraudulent registrations off the rolls, because fraudulent registrations are used to seed mail ballot requests. The mail ballots go out like a shotgun spray, and the ballot harvesters follow behind with their lists of exactly where to pick them up. And what do you know? Here's a couple thousand extra ballots in a small county in a state that's going to be decided by 20,000 votes. Wisconsin is going to be decided by an eyelash in the 2024 election. Letter V in lives, volunteer. We need poll watchers. We need election judges. In fact, some counties pay their election judges. So that's not even truly a volunteer position. So if you think you can't lead or you don't have enough time to invest in leading something, you can always volunteer. They fill all of their positions. We don't. We sit around on social media and make memes and complain. Volunteer. It's an important thing. We've got volunteers all over the country that have contributed to some really important research in the field of elections. Letter E is to engage. You guys need to be at your county commissioners' meetings. How many people go to the county commissioners' meetings here in this county or the next one? A couple people. This is important. I was called to testify at a county commissioners' meeting in Meade County, South Dakota last month. And we went in there armed with information from their canvassing group about voter registrations in RV parks, which are contributing to fraudulent votes. 5 people were in the meeting. The county commissioner thought he was going to be able to shut me up, but he didn't know who he was talking to. So I put him in his place and continued to rail about their election system for my entire 5 minutes. We need to show up there. We need to communicate with one another. We need to communicate. We need to talk about our primary candidates now before it's a bloodbath in the springtime. We need to get on the same sheet of music. We need to turn out the vote when it's time to vote. And finally, we got to show up. We have to be in these places. We have to be present. We have to be part of the culture and impact our culture if we're going to impact our election results. So that is the LIVES acronym, and there's something for everybody in there. So in closing, you guys wouldn't be here if you didn't care. You got plenty of other stuff to do. This is 3 years after the 2020 election. This is now, by my count, my 207th election-related event tied to the 2020 election. I've been to 44% of the counties and independent cities in the United States in 2 years. That's not for me to take a bow. That's to tell you that this is a goal that is worth pursuing. There are no other political issues that matter right now aside from election integrity. Because we can have the best abortion policies, or pro-life policies, I should say. We can have the best trade policies, which is the reason this region drifted away from the Democrats. Is there a bald eagle up there or something? Okay, well, nothing's going to stop me from talking about election fraud. So, come on, guys. We can have the best policies for energy extraction, but if we can't get our people in office, hey, Trump won, buddy. If we can't get our people in office, then none of these other issues truly matter. So I'm asking you guys now, when you're sitting here enjoying the cool air of the fall, God bless these orange leaves finally, when it's easy, when you're having a drink, when you're enjoying the next speaker, when you're posing for pictures with Doug Billings, it's a good time to think about whether you truly want to step up and lead. 3 years ago, I was selling traffic control technology. In fact, one of my last customers I saw before the pandemic was the city of Wausau. I was in Madison Airport when the world was breaking down and shutting down about March the 15th of 2020. And then, within a year, I was standing in a role, one of the top figures in the election integrity movement worldwide. So you never know when God is going to use your commitment and the things that you believe in and your skills that you put to use and give you a big voice, and then your world changes. So you might want to think about that now, because if you own a business, they'll come after it. If you've got dirt, because none of you are perfect, I don't think, then they're going to find it, all in an effort to shut you up. But if we don't fight, if we don't stand up, then John Adams had a lot to say about that he would repent in heaven for all of the pains taken to bring freedom to this country. And Sam Adams said that posterity should forget that we were their countrymen if they did nothing. So I want all of you to remember that. It's fun to come to these events. There's a lot of critics online that think we're out here on some glory tour making tons of money. The point of this is we don't have a country and we don't have a life if we're not a free people. So now's a really good time to look at your neighbors and look at your friends and look at your family and forget about the negative things that they have to say about you, and tell them to get off of their asses and do something for the good of this country and its future. So God bless you, and thank you very much.
Well done, Seth.
Seth Keshel, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, Seth.